The noisy hallways of an elementary school suddenly fell silent. A young boy's backpack lay abandoned in his classroom, his desk strangely empty. As the final bell rang, panic began to set in. One child was missing, vanished without a trace. Little did anyone know that this ordinary school day would mark the beginning of a mystery that would captivate a nation and leave a family desperate for answers. In the world of true crime, some cases leave an indelible mark on our collective consciousness. They make us question the safety of our communities and the fragility of our everyday lives. This is one such case, a story that begins with a science fair and ends with a question that haunts us to this day. What happened to the boy who never made it to class?
Investigators in Portland are now offering a $25,000 reward for information that leads them to second grader Kyron Horman. With Kyron's family standing by, Captain Monty Reiser says officers will follow up on any tip, but their investigation has now shifted.
With the search and rescue mission completed at this time, we are moving operations toward the criminal investigative end of the spectrum.
Kyron!
The search for Kyron began 10 days ago with no sign of the 7-year-old since his stepmother dropped him off at school June 4th.
Join us as we unravel the mystery of the boy who went missing from his elementary school. It's a story that will challenge your perceptions, tug at your heartstrings, and perhaps even make you hug your loved ones a little tighter tonight. Imagine a bustling elementary school filled with the excitement of a science fair. Kids are showing off their projects, beaming with pride. But then, the bell rings and a chill runs down everyone's spine. One little boy is missing. His backpack sits empty on his desk, but Kyron Horman is nowhere to be found. This isn't just any missing person case. This is a story that will haunt you, a mystery that has gripped a nation. It's a tale of a boy who vanished into thin air, leaving behind a family shattered and a community searching for answers. It all happened in Portland, Oregon, a city known for its green parks and vibrant culture. Skyline Elementary School, a place where every child is valued, was the scene of this unsettling event. On a warm June morning in 2010, Kyron, a bright-eyed second grader, was excited to show off his science project on red-eyed tree frogs. His stepmother, Terry, was there to cheer him on. They snapped photos of Kyron, capturing his beaming smile. But as the day wore on, the excitement faded. Kids started heading back to their classrooms, but Kyron was nowhere to be seen. His absence sent a wave of panic through the school. And so the mystery began. A young boy, full of life and promise, had vanished without a trace. This ordinary school day would forever be remembered as the day Kyron Horman disappeared. Kyron Horman, born on September 9, 2002, was a ray of sunshine. His infectious smile and curious eyes could melt hearts. With his mop of brown hair, he was the picture of a happy, healthy kid. But life wasn't always easy for Kyron. His parents, Desiree Young and Kane Horman, divorced when Desiree was still pregnant with him. Even though they weren't together, both parents loved Kyron deeply and were committed to being part of his life. For the first few years, Kyron spent time with both parents. But things changed when Desiree was diagnosed with kidney failure. Kane became Kyron's primary caregiver, but Desiree never stopped loving her son. In 2007, Kane married Terry Moulton, a substitute teacher from Roseburg, Oregon. They had met around 2001 during Kane's divorce. Their wedding in Kauai marked a new beginning for the family. A year later, Kyron became a big brother to his little sister, Kara. He loved taking care of her and being a role model. Kyron was a curious kid, always asking questions and exploring the world around him. His love for science was evident in his red-eyed tree frog project. He was fascinated by the natural world, from colorful leaves to interesting rocks. But Kyron wasn't just a science whiz. He was a well-rounded kid who loved playing with friends, reading books, and spending time with his family. His gentle nature made him a favorite among teachers and classmates. With his whole life ahead of him, Kyron was full of potential. He was just beginning to discover his passions, find his place in the world. Let's rewind to that Friday morning, June 4, 2010. The sun had barely risen over Portland when Terry Horman, Kyron's stepmother, woke the sleepy second grader for his big day. With excitement bubbling in his chest, Kyron got ready for school, his mind no doubt filled with thoughts of his science fair project. Terry drove Kyron to Skyline Elementary, arriving around 8 o'clock a.m. The school was already abuzz with activity as parents and children streamed in, many carrying science projects of their own. Kyron and Terry made their way to the gymnasium, where they set up his red-eyed tree frog display. As Kyron stood proudly next to his project, Terry snapped a few photos. These images would later become heartbreakingly significant, the last known pictures of Kyron. In them, he's smiling widely, his enthusiasm for his project clear as day. According to Terry's account, she left the school at around 8:45 a.m. She remembers seeing Kyron walk down the hallway towards his classroom. This fleeting moment, a child walking down a school corridor, would be the last confirmed sighting of Kyron Horman. What happened next is where our mystery truly begins. Kyron never made it to his first class. His teacher following normal procedure, Martin absent, but alarm bells didn't start ringing just yet. After all, it was a busy day with the science fair and mix-ups can happen. Meanwhile, Terry's movements that morning would later come under intense scrutiny. She stated that after leaving the school, she ran errands at 2 different Fred Meyer grocery stores until about 10:10 a.m. Then, for the next hour and a half, she said she drove her young daughter around town, hoping the motion of the car would soothe the toddler's hearing. By early afternoon, Terry had gone to a local gym and then returned home. At 1:21 p.m., she posted the photos of Kyron at the science fair on Facebook, a normal proud parent moment that would soon take on a far more poignant significance. As the school day drew to a close, the true horror of the situation began to unfold. At 3:30 p.m., Terry and Kane, along with their daughter Kiera, went to meet Kyron's school bus. But when the bus pulled up, Kyron wasn't on it. The bus driver delivered the news that would set off a chain of events that continues to this day. Kyron had not boarded the bus after school. Concerned, Terry called the school. The response she received sent a chill down her spine. Kyron had been marked absent, and as far as anyone knew, hadn't been seen since early that morning. In that moment, time seemed to stand still. A realization dawned that would change everything. Kyron was missing. The school secretary, grasping the gravity of the situation, immediately called 911. And so began one of the most extensive searches in Oregon's history. As news spread, a wave of disbelief and fear swept through the community. How could a child simply vanish from a busy elementary school? Where was Kyron? And what had happened in those crucial hours between the science fair and the end of the school day? The search efforts for Kyron were nothing short of extraordinary. Focusing initially on a 2-mile radius around Skyline Elementary, searchers combed through every nook and cranny. They peered into bushes, looked under cars, and scoured nearby wooded areas. No stone was left unturned, no patch of ground unchecked. But the search didn't stop there. For reasons that weren't immediately clear to the public, the investigation expanded to include Sauvie Island, about 6 miles away from the school. This scenic island, known for its farms and wildlife refuges, became a focal point of the search. Teams even carefully examined the Sauvie Island Bridge, though the reasons for this particular focus remained a mystery. By June 12, a small army of trained rescuers, around 300 in total, were on the ground, meticulously searching the wooded areas near the school. The community's response was equally impressive. Volunteers showed up in droves, ready to help in any way they could. The scale of the search was unprecedented. It would go on to become the largest in Oregon's history, involving over 1,300 searchers from not just Oregon, but also neighboring Washington and California. The message was clear. Kyron's disappearance had touched hearts far beyond Portland's city limits. Meanwhile, Kyron's family was living every parent's worst nightmare. On June 9, 5 days after Kyron's disappearance, they broke their silence and released a statement to the public. Kyron's family would like to thank people for your support and interest in finding their son. The outpouring of support and continued effort strengthens their hope. We need for folks to continue to assist us in our goal. Please search your properties, cars, buildings, sheds, etc. Also check with neighbors and friends who may be on vacation or may need assistance in searching. There are a lot of resources here to help you search, so please don't stop. Their plea was heartfelt and desperate. They urged the public not just to search, but to keep searching, to keep hoping, to keep Chiron in their thoughts. The family's objective was clear: to keep the focus on finding Chiron, no matter what. A reward was posted for information leading to Chiron's discovery. Initially set at $25,000, it would later expand to $50,000 in late July, a testament to the community's commitment to finding answers. 10 days. That's how long the initial intensive search lasted. 10 days of hope, fear, exhaustion, and determination. 10 days that would change the lives of Chiron's family forever. But even as the initial search wound down, the investigation was far from over. In fact, it was about to take some unexpected turns. In late June, investigators shared some shocking information with Kyron Horman, Chiron's father. They told him that Terry had allegedly approached their landscaper, Rodolfo Sanchez, with an unusual and disturbing request. According to Sanchez, Terry had offered him a lot of money to help end her husband's life. This conversation, Sanchez claimed, had taken place in January 2010, 5 months before Chiron vanished. When confronted with this accusation, Terry vehemently denied it, but the seed of doubt had been planted. Investigators, eager to gather more evidence, convinced Sanchez to confront Terry while wearing an audio surveillance device. However, this attempt failed to produce any concrete evidence, and no arrest could be made. The revelation of this alleged murder-for-hire plot sent shockwaves through the community and the investigation. On June 28, just over 3 weeks after Chiron's disappearance, Kyron Horman made a decision that would change the family dynamic forever. He filed for divorce from Terry and obtained a restraining order against her. As if to add fuel to the fire of suspicion, it came to light that Terry had failed 2 separate polygraph examinations regarding Chiron's disappearance. While polygraph results are not admissible in court and their reliability is often debated, this information only intensified the cloud of suspicion surrounding Terry. Then, in August, another potentially crucial piece of information emerged. 2 witnesses reported seeing someone sitting in Terry's truck outside Skyline Elementary on the day Chiron vanished. The identity of this second person, if they indeed existed, could be a critical piece of the puzzle in determining what happened to Chiron after 9 a.m. on that fateful June morning. In July, a Multnomah County grand jury subpoenaed several of Terry's friends, including a woman named Dee Spitzer. Chiron's parents, Desiree and Kane, described Spitzer as someone who had been in close communication with Terry and was providing Terry with support and advice that is not in the best interests of our son. Spitzer's movements on the day of Chiron's disappearance came under scrutiny. She had been gardening for a homeowner in northwest Portland and was allegedly unaccounted for during a 3-hour period. Spitzer, however, maintained that she had never left the property that day. Despite the growing suspicion, no arrests were made. The investigation continued, with Chiron's parents and the school. However, in a surprising turn of events, Young dropped the lawsuit just under a year later, on July 30, 2013. Her reason? She didn't want to interfere with the ongoing police investigation. This decision highlighted the delicate balance between seeking justice through civil means and not impeding the criminal investigation that was still underway. Meanwhile, the search for Chiron never truly stopped. In May 2017, nearly 7 years after his disappearance, it was reported by Portland station KGW that a secret grand jury panel was still hearing evidence in Chiron's case. The report described the investigation as active and ongoing, a glimmer of hope for those still seeking answers. 2 months later, in July 2017, law enforcement conducted new searches along Skyline Boulevard. While these searches didn't yield any results, they served as a reminder that the case was far from cold. Investigators were still pursuing leads and refusing to give up on finding Chiron. In 2016, Terry Horman appeared as a guest on the popular talk show Dr. Phil. During her appearance, she maintained her innocence, telling Dr. Phil McGraw, "I've always wanted to speak out. I've asked multiple times to speak out and have not been allowed." She also shared her belief that Kyron had been taken, mentioning a man in a white pickup truck who had been acting strangely near the school on the day of Kyron's disappearance. The case also inspired literary works. In May 2020, author Rebecca Morris released a book titled Boy Missing: The Search for Kyron Horman. The book delved deep into the case, exploring the events surrounding Kyron's disappearance and the ongoing search for answers. Television took interest in the story as well. In November 2020, the case was featured in an episode of the Discovery ID show Real Life Nightmare, titled Vanished from School. The episode brought Kyron's story to a national audience, reigniting public interest in the case. Throughout all of this, Kyron's family never gave up hope. They continued to mark his birthdays, hold vigils, and keep his memory alive. Each year that passed without answers was painful, but it also strengthened their resolve to keep searching, to keep asking questions, to keep Kyron's story in the public eye. As we look back on this case, we're left with more questions than answers. How could a child vanish from a busy school? What happened in those crucial hours on June 4, 2010? And perhaps most importantly, where is Kyron Horman?